Good morning.
Good morning, Aaron.
Hi there. We're on the video, ready to go.
Okay.
All righty. We're on this Monday, April the 26th. So happy to see everybody on with us this morning. We're reading it in Judges chapter 6 today. And we just, of course, that follows Judges chapter 5, right? Y'all get that. But I wanted to go back just for a second about Judges chapter 5 because it ended with 40 years of peace. Judges chapter 5 ended with 40 years of peace. And then here we start Judges chapter 6, verse 1. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight. So 40 years of peace, and the Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight. So in their prosperity, they become complacent. So many times I'm reminded that when things are going good, that ought to be the time when we're seeking Him the most. There's my mom on there. Hi, good morning, Mom. There's Karen. Ooh, yeah, good to see everybody on this morning. We got lots of people on this morning. Okay, so after 40 years of peace, in their prosperity, they become complacent, and they did what was evil in the Lord's sight. So look at the sequence of events in today's reading of the way it happened. So the Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight, and then the Lord handed them over to the Midianites. You got to remember, we did not have the regenerating power of the Holy Spirit on the inside of them back then. They did not have the power of the regenerating Spirit inside of them. So if God hadn't handed them over to the Midianites, chances are they never would have humbled themselves. And remember the lesson of the yeast, that once evil starts, that it took on a life of its own. There's Adriana. Hi there. Glad to see you on this morning too. Evil spreads. Goodness spreads. It's the reason why it's the lesson of the yeast. Yeast bread is good. And they ate yeast bread, but there were times when they ate the unleavened bread as well. It was during sacrifices that they had unleavened bread with no yeast in it. God used that to teach us about how things happen in life. He uses analogies. He uses type and shadows to show us, which we're getting ready to go to a huge one of those here in just a second. So anyway, it went on that the Midianites were so cruel that the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains. They're in the promised land and they're having to hide in caves. They become cave dwellers. Oh. And notice that they called that strongholds. In verse 2, whenever the Israelites planted their crops, marauders from Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east would attack Israel, camping in the land and destroying their crops. And then it ends up down in verse 6. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. And then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. You notice that they were starving and they cried out for help. It doesn't say they repented and asked for help. There is a big difference. There is a big difference. And again, you can see this. You can see these patterns in your own life if you allow God to look into your heart. It doesn't matter if you've got a testimony of the worst of the worst of the worst, or a testimony that you've been raised by Christian parents, you've been in school, you've been taught. You can find these kind of patterns in your own life. As you're reading these stories, if you'll let God reveal it to you. He revealed some things to me this morning. So when they cried out to the Lord because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites. The very first thing God does is He sends an unnamed prophet to them to remind them of who He is and what He had done. It was a mind mindset shift that took place. That's why we do a grateful journal. We find ourselves in a place where we feel like there's no hope, or it's just hard. Life is hard. When we start focusing on the fact that life is hard, we become the Israelites in the 40 years of prosperity and complacency. Because when we're focusing and when we're thinking thoughts that, oh, life is hard, we're not being as grateful as we can be. The two don't mix. I can't say, oh, life is so hard, it's hard, at the same exact time being grateful for all that he's done for me. And so when we practice a grateful journal on a regular basis, it creates a whole new mindset. We're no longer a cave dweller with a stronghold. We're an overcomer with an overcoming attitude. And then I could use some other words that's coming up right down here in the same column of our reading, but I won't right now. I don't want to jump ahead. So after he sends the prophet to remind them of who he was and what he had done for them, then the angel of the Lord, and if you pay close attention to the wording, even in this New Living Translation, and remember, I want to remind you, the New Living Translation is not a word-for-word translation. It's meant to convey the meaning. It's not meant to be concise in its translation. But it still, even in this translation, says, and the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath a great tree, which belonged to Joash, the clan of Abiezer. And Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. See, they didn't normally thresh wheat in the bottom. They normally thresh the wheat at the top, out in the open. But once again, they were hiding. They were hiding. So imagine living life, living life as an elder and having to hide to keep them from stealing your food. Living life as a middle-aged person, or as a young person, or as a child. And you've done this for a while. Can you imagine the change in your mind that would take place? No wonder Gideon was afraid. I mean, they lived in a hopeless state, that they were starving, that every time they worked hard, we can't really in America, for sure, really know what this would feel like to work hard, and then have it stolen away from us. We're teetering on some of that. Work hard, and they steal it away. Work hard, and it's gone. And it's gone to the point that then we'll work hard in private. He will go beneath. He will go beneath. Oh goodness, I gotta go. I gotta move forward, or I could really get going on that. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress to hide the grain. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, mighty hero. But once again, the angel of the Lord, I want to focus on the words. Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us. And then I want to say, look again, verse 14 is where I want to finish this one point. Then the Lord turned to him and said, and then Gideon replied, but Lord, verse 15, and then 26, the Lord said to him. And then verse 20, the angel of God said to him. When I looked this up, there's such a thing as a theophany. I'd never heard of a theophany. And this is an Old Testament appearance of Jesus. This is considered an Old Testament appearance of Jesus. So it's God in the form of man that appeared to Gideon. Later on, Gideon talks about how he was going to die because he had seen the Lord face to face, and God told him that you will not die. I just wanted to point that out, because now my next point is back in verse 12. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero." He spoke those words to Gideon, "Mighty hero." That is an Old Testament depiction of what Romans 4:17 is, that we call those things that are not as though they were. We call those things that are not as though they were. This angel of the Lord, which if you really research it, is considered a theophany, an Old Testament appearance of Jesus, God in the flesh, appeared to Gideon and said to him, "Mighty hero." What was mighty about Gideon in that moment? He was hiding and threshing wheat. They were living in an environment of oppression. They were being oppressed. That every time they worked hard, everything they worked hard for got stolen from them, and they were starving. They were starving. They were desperate enough that they weren't repenting of their sins, because what got them to this place was their sins. And that's what sin does to us on the inside. When I'm not acting with kindness, it's only a matter of time until I feel as though I've got to hide from people. When I'm mistreating those around me and I'm cutting them off and interrupting what they say, and what I say is more important than what you say, and every time a conversation starts taking place, you've got to throw in your 2 cents worth that, well, when I did that, or I know more than you know, or I've had more experience than you've had. It's just a matter of time until you start feeling separated and cut off. And the next thing you know, that'll lead to you feeling as though you're separated from God. I'm using some subtle things, because if you're on here with me, chances are you're not openly out there cheating on your wives and your husbands. You're not openly out there murdering people or robbing banks. Those things that anybody and everybody can recognize as sin. But lest we get complacent in our prosperity and not think that there aren't still things in us that needs to be revealed and we need to be delivered from. When we let those strongholds stay and they become a way of life, we feel as though everything we've worked so hard for gets stolen. I mean, we can do that in the spiritual realm. I mean, I thought of it today where I'm at, that I'm so excited about reading the Word, and I get so excited at our retreats, and we get to see women, their whole lives changed. And, I think about, Miss Eileen, her brother passed away this morning, and as I prayed for her this morning, I thought about the foundation in which she's facing this loss of her brother that she's had us pray for a long time now. And you know what? This morning I smiled. Not because Eileen's brother is now in heaven, although that's certainly worthy of me smiling about, but smiled knowing the foundation in which Eileen stands on today, knowing her brother's in heaven. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, and to be at that place that I can see things so different. I do see things different. But I do know that if I don't guard my heart, as the Bible says, if I don't watch the junk I'm putting in, if I don't watch the words I'm speaking, if I don't speak life, the death will turn on me and I'll be starving, feeling as though all that I've worked so hard for is being robbed from me. And then here he is, the very first thing the angel of the Lord said to a man in hiding, he called him mighty warrior. Mighty hero, actually. Mighty hero. The power of our words. And is it okay? I've had people tell me, "Oh, well, I'm not gonna address my son as a spiritual leader in his house when he's living a life that looks like," oh, really? Well, this says that this was an Old Testament appearance of Jesus, and that God himself spoke to Gideon and called him a mighty hero when Gideon felt as though and was living life as though he was anything except a mighty hero. What is it today that you need to be speaking faith into instead of speaking the death of, oh, I'm so worried about, oh, what if they do this? Oh, if they go down that path, they're going to, why is it that that's what our words lead to? Why is it that, well, I prayed to God and he didn't answer. I asked God to take this from me. God's already done everything God's going to do. It's up to us to press in. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto us. When we make God our all in all, and it's all about him, sit back and watch the blessings overtake you. That's what Deuteronomy says. The blessings will overtake us. This really spoke to me this morning. I know you guys can tell. Mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Sin robs us of all we work hard for. Israel thought that the Midianites was the problem, and they didn't see that it was their own sin. How easy is it for us to blame everybody else for our troubles? Everyone else is the source of our problems. Then it goes on. I guess I just want to finish this a little bit. Sir Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Why? Why me, Lord? Why me? I think the answer is, why not me? Why not me? He nowhere in here does he tell us that we're not going to face problems. In fact, if we are reading this book, we're on day 117 today. If we are reading this and really pressing in, he is preparing us for every battle that we're getting ready to have to face. The battles are many, but my God is mightier. Yeah, even Gideon said, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites. It would have been much, much, much worse back in that day if God had not have handed them over to the Midianites. Because that yeast has no end. That sin that they were in would have overtaken all of them and would have resulted in the death of every last one of them. Then the Lord turned to him and said, go with the strength you have. Oh my gosh, this spoke to me today. Go with the strength you have. You facing a surgery? You're facing a test? You're facing... What are you facing today? He's telling us, go with the strength we have. Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you. I am sending you. Now, I want to jump ahead, and I hope I find my spot. Because he tells him to go with the strength he has, and then he gives him the promise. I should have brought my glasses this morning. I'll find it because I have it marked today. Because there is a place in here. I just wanted to point it out for you if I find it. If I don't find it, that's okay. Oh, here it is. I knew I'd find it. Verse 34. Then the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon with power. He clothed Gideon with power. So he tells him, you go with the strength you have. And what he's really saying is that by faith, you go with whatever strength you have. If you've got the faith of a mustard seed, then I will clothe you in the power. For what you don't have, anything you're lacking, I'm going to provide it and more. Oh my goodness, guys, I'm just... What is your test today? What are you facing? Go with the power you have, and he will clothe you with his power. And then, Luke 22 is Peter. doing exactly what, once again, Jesus told him he would do, that before the rooster crowed, that he would deny him 3 times. And you know, I read it this morning, and it dawned on me how every time I read this pains me. There is something, I almost don't even want to read it. I don't like reading that Peter, who Jesus said, on you I will, you are the rock in which I'll build my church. And to read that he denied him. And yet just this morning, and there was something going on in my household that somebody needed prayer for this morning. And I had chosen not to pray. I can't tell you why. Can I find lots of excuses? I can blame everything else, just like what the Gideon and his people were doing, the Israelites were doing. None of their problems were their fault. It was that God handed them over to the Midianites. I could say all kinds of reasons why my first response wasn't for prayer. But I come in and I read, and I got to this part about Peter, and I realized it was paining me. I realized a reluctance to want to read it instead of my usual, oh, I can't wait to read this. I almost wish I could skip over it, because then when I read it and I realized how small the reading was, it's like, is that all there's going to be in the New Testament? Surely there's more. And then God spoke, and he showed me that Peter denying him 3 times. See, Peter knew who he was. He'd been warned over and over again that they're going to do this to me. Jesus had told him they're going to arrest me, they're going to beat me. He'd spent a long time preparing the disciples for this, including Peter. And then when it happened, Peter denied him 3 times. And God showed me that when I don't have the faith of believing that I can lay hands on somebody and pray for them and them to be healed, I'm denying him. That when I believe that God can deliver Donna, God can heal this person, God can work through this person, but not me. It's as though I'm saying, well, the death of Christ on that cross was good enough for everybody else, but it wasn't quite good enough for me. And I wrote it in my column this morning. And then I got up out of my chair and I walked in and I laid hands on and I prayed for that person that needed my prayer this morning. Faith of a mustard seed. Go in the strength you have, and then he will clothe you in power. See, it's not about us. It's never been about us. It'll never be about us. And yet, he always uses a man or a woman. Yesterday's reading, you saw how he used Deborah. I get tickled at the people that say women aren't supposed to be active. Anyway. Go in the strength that you have, and he will clothe us with power. Speak those things that are not as though they are. The power of our words. And because it's about the power of the words today, I want to read a little bit of the Psalms for us just as I close. Come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us shout joyfully to the rock of our salvation. What are you speaking out loud? If you don't know what to speak out loud, find the Psalms like this and speak them out loud over your circumstances. Let us come to him with thanksgiving. Oh, that grateful journal. Let us sing psalms of praise to him, for the Lord is a great God. When's the last time you said that out loud? The Lord is a great God, a great King above all gods. He holds in his hands the depths of the earth and the mightiest mountains. The sea belongs to him, for he made it. His hands formed the dry land too. It's very hard for me to read those words and then think he's not big enough to handle the problem I face today. And then he says, for 40 years, verse 10, this is Psalms 95:10. For 40 years I was angry with them, and I said. Do you realize that's a reference back to what we're reading about? The very first thing I said to you is that after 40 years of peace. Okay, moving on again. Speaking life, speaking power, going forth in the strength that we have. Sing a new song to the Lord. Let the whole earth sing to the Lord. Sing to the Lord. Praise his name. Each day proclaim the good news that he saves. Each day proclaim. Publish his glorious deeds among the nations. Tell everyone about the amazing things he does. Great is the Lord. He is most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods. The gods of other nations are mere idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Honor and majesty surround him. Strength and beauty fill his sanctuary. O nations of the world, recognize the Lord. Recognize that the Lord is glorious and strong. Give to the Lord the glory he deserves. If those Israelites, when the Midianites was coming and taking their food, if they would have proclaimed that God is our source, not this work I'm doing with my hands, God will feed us. He fed us manna in the desert. God is the one that'll deliver us. But instead it was, where is God? Where were you when we needed you? Why, if you're God, why are you letting this happen? I don't know about you, but these words change me and changes my whole attitude. I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a magnificent Monday as you dwell on these words and as you speak life. Go with your strength, knowing that the God will clothe you in power. I love y'all.